Yeah, do it again.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Average Bros Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Tyler.
I'm Anthony.
And I'm Mike. And Tyler doesn't know how to turn
off
his phone.
Sorry, guys. I told these hosts, don't be texting me when I'm doing this. They just don't listen. The thirst is real.
Hey. Like always, go check out our website, averagebrosfantasyfootball.com. Go check out our YouTube page. We don't have a custom URL. I've advertised that we did, but we don't yet. Go check that out. We got full video format there. Twitter, Facebook, it's all /AverageBrosFFP, and all those will be down below on YouTube. So go ahead and check all that stuff out before you listen to this whole thing, or maybe just listen to this whole thing, then check that stuff out. But looky here. You're here. We're here. Yeah. What are we doing today, Tyler?
All right, well, we're going to continue our breakdown of the top 50 overall players for the PPR. Again, this is the expert rankings and whatnot. So the last episode, we broke down the top 10. This episode, we're going to be breaking down 11 through 20. Like I said, we're just going to give you some stats, some useful information, the floors, ceilings, and our personal opinions on how we feel about these certain players, their draft value, where they're going, ADP, and so on and so forth. All
right, number 11, we got Michael Thomas, New Orleans Saints.
Michael Thomas. Okay, so I had Michael Thomas last year, and I mean, people act like he didn't do that good, but I mean, the guy was a PPR machine. I'm not sure exactly what the stats are. I don't know if you have them pulled up or not, Anthony, but I think he's got like 90-plus catches back-to-back years or something like that.
Yeah, 2016, you're looking at 121 targets for 92 receptions, 1,100 yards, 1,137. And then 2017, 149 targets for 104 receptions for 1,245. And both years he averaged over 12 yards per catch.
I mean, the guy's just, I think for 2 years, I think he broke Jarvis Landry. Actually, I'm repping Jarvis Landry right now. But I think he broke Jarvis Landry's record for most catches in his first 2 years in the league. I mean, and when you got Drew Brees, future first ballot Hall of Famer throwing you the ball, I want his number one receiver on my team because he's going to get a ton of targets. The volume, the opportunities are there. It's a good offense too. I think he's one of the safest picks. I mean, you kind of know what you're going to get with him. It's just solid. I think the floor on him is super safe. I mean, his ADP is good right there. As a wide receiver 1, I think he's good. I mean, there's even a possibility that you can grab Michael Thomas as your wide receiver 2, and which is, that's.
I think one thing is the pendulum swinging really far with the running backs to receivers this year. Super Mario's back.
Just got a mushroom. Sorry.
The running backs are getting taken so high, and there are only a few workhorses, so I understand it. But there's a possibility that 5 receivers could go over 1,500 yards and 10+ touchdowns, and this will kind of even the wide receiver and running back ratio back out. And Michael Thomas is one of those guys. He could in his third year. They say wide receivers break out in their third year, and he's broken out in years 1 through his freshman and sophomore season. So if he takes a leap in his junior year, I mean, you could be looking at an elite wide receiver right here tied to a Hall of Fame quarterback. I think the knock on him, people were upset with him last year, is he only scored 5 touchdowns and 150 targets. I mean, that's in the Julio Jones range. I don't see that happening again. If you listen to last episode, I touched on how the Saints were a 1-to-1 touchdown ratio from rushing to passing. If Drew Brees gets back to his career touchdown percentage, and the attempts shoot up to 550, 600, he's going to throw 27 to 30 touchdowns, and Michael Thomas is going to catch some of those. One more thing I'll touch on last year is I loved Michael Thomas going into last year. I believe you did too. Love Michael Thomas. We both did. There was a knock on him that, Drew Brees never hyper targets one receiver, and I actually did some research, and that was a little bit of a lie. If you date back to when he had Marcus Colston, in 2007, Marcus Colston had 143 targets. So whoever these experts or whatever site you were reading or listening to telling you that he's never targeted someone more than 130 times, I call BS. Because 2007, like I said, Marcus Colston, 143 targets. In 2008, Marcus Colston only played 88 games, but he was on pace for 140. In 2009, he was at 106, but Drew Brees only played in 15 games and only threw the ball 514 times that year. And then in 2010, 2011, 130 targets each season. So Michael Thomas could easily see the same target volume he saw last year. I see him repeating in the same target range. He's tied to a Hall of Fame quarterback. I see those touchdowns going up. I try and think about his floor, and he's about as safe as it comes week in and week out to me.
Super safe, man. I think he's one of those guys you set it and forget it every week.
Are you taking him in the first round though?
Ooh, in the first round, that's kind of tough.
I mean, if he's number 11.
I mean, I guess if you're pick 11, 12, the back end, you're getting pretty much 2 picks back to back. I mean, it's almost like, okay, if you want Michael Thomas right there, and then there's like a group of the running backs that you can get on the way back, yeah, grab him, because you have your choice of getting 3 running backs. Maybe you want to get Fournette, a Dalvin Cook, or Kareem Hunt. If those 3 guys are there, and then it's just Michael Thomas, and you really want Michael Thomas, grab Michael Thomas, because then on the way back you have 3 running backs to choose from. Instead of grabbing a running back and then now the pick 11 or 12 or whatever, he's got 2 picks. Maybe he grabs Michael Thomas. So that's kind of like a draft strategy thing right there, where you want to grab the player that's there if you have some extra players available.
Actually, Michael Thomas is actually the 203 in ADP right now, so he's not technically a first-round pick. And this is based off PPR 12-team leagues. So you really wouldn't have to make that first-round decision. And I feel like I touched on, the way this year's going is running backs are going a little heavier. So Michael Thomas is probably going to be, we're judging off people who are drafting early are all people considered experts. And people who are like into fantasy football, they're a little bit more, into statistics and stuff like that. So I think Michael Thomas might even be there in the middle of the second round in some of your drafts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind taking him in the second round, but at the expert ranking at ranking number 11, I don't know. I think there's some guys way down there that even ADP wise, like there's guys like Mike Evans who are way down there. I would almost take. I don't know, just the potential upside. I agree though that his floor is there for sure.
For sure, yeah. I mean, like I was saying, you have a potential to have Michael Thomas as your second receiver. I mean, if you draft like a DeAndre Odell, even like an Antonio Brown, and then you can come back and get Michael Thomas as your second receiver, I mean, my dick gets hard thinking about that. Yeah. Like, it's just my receivers are stacked.
Tyler always has a hard penis.
My dick gets hard just because I'm seeing your dick getting hard about Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas's dick is also hard, and then we're all hard together.
All right.
Science.
Science.
All right.
Sorry, guys.
Anything else about Michael Thomas you guys want to touch on?
I mean, I just think, like you're saying, Drew Brees, he's thrown the ball, like 500 times, give or take, right? I mean, he doesn't really have any real threat to take away his targets. I mean, they signed Cameron Meredith, which I think is a sleeper. I mean, they got Ginn, but Ginn's just kind of a deep threat. They don't really have a tight end who receive. I mean, they would think got Ben Watson. But he's old. He's like 40 years old. I mean, so it's Michael Thomas and Kamara who are going to get, I would say, the lion's share of the targets there.
And something I think what's going to happen the first 4 games, and the Saints actually do have a very good weeks 1 through 4 schedule with Ingram out, is I think they're going to be a little more pass heavy in those first 4 weeks. They have a bunch of just middling of the road backups next to Kamara. They came out and said that they don't want to give him more work than they did last year. Now, I think they do have to give him some more work, but if you're not going to give him some more work and you're going to have these running backs not being able to do what Mark Ingram did, if you want to have that same high-powered offense, it's going to lead you to throwing the ball more. So in those first 4 weeks, I mean, the Saints could come out, just gun-ho, ears back, just throwing Drew Brees a little more, and that could make Michael Thomas in your weeks 1 through 4 a little more valuable. I mean, I think he's someone who could push for lead the league in receptions. I mean, 92, 104. I mean, I wouldn't say it's unrealistic that he pushes into the 110s.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, you're looking at a floor of like 90 plus, like 1,100 plus yards realistically, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's, like you said, safe.
Yeah, and I think Drew Brees is due for about, if you look at his career averages, he was a whole percentage of touchdown rate below his normal touchdown rate. So what touchdown rate means is if his touchdown rate is 5.5%, that means out of 100 passes, every 5.5 he throws a touchdown. Last year, his percentages were down. It was 4.3. So that's a whole percentage less. So if you just add 1 percentage to 500 to 600 passes, you're looking at an extra 5 to 6 touchdowns. Michael Thomas had plenty of catches, so there's reason to believe he could score more touchdowns. And if Drew Brees just throws his career average of another 5 or 6 touchdowns, you can realistically see Michael Thomas going for 10 TDs. 100 plus catches, 12 to 1,300 yards, and that's just like we said, week in and week out. He's as safe as it gets.
You guys are selling me on Michael Thomas, man. I'm about to-
Sign me up.
I mean, you guys do have the same name.
Yeah, we are
You
chosen.
could take Michael Thomas and
That's what I
Mike
was-
Evans.
Dude,
Mike,
I hate my name so
Mike,
much.
Mike, and Mike.
All right, so
It's going to Keenan Allen, Los
Allen.
Angeles Chargers.
Keenan Allen, he's one of those players where if you listen to the last episode, I'm telling you where like there's a player where I draft and I just feel like when I draft these players, they don't do good, and then I don't draft them and then they do good. I've drafted Keenan Allen pretty much every year. He always gets hurt, something crazy, some freak accident, and this year I was just like, I'm not touching him. Last year because he just always gets hurt, and he just exploded. He just had career numbers, just amazing,
So you're not drafting him next year? So
I
could take
don't
him?
think I'm going to draft him, but he's really good.
So I'll be taking him in every draft.
Yeah?
If Tyler's not drafting him, according to the laws of
It's
high
just one of those
physics.
things. I mean, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird, but it's one of those things where I don't know. I mean, I love Keenan Allen. He's one of my favorite players. I think he averaged 10 targets a game, so I mean he's getting a lot of targets.
Yeah, he had 160 targets last year for 1393, 13.7 yards per catch, and then he had 6 touchdowns. But he did have a high red zone target. I know that. Keenan Allen, I mean, he's one of the elite route runners. They run him in the slot nonstop, so he's not against an elite corner. Last year after the second half, I mean, Phillip Rivers just basically realized like, hey, this guy's going to be open every play, so I'm just going to throw it to him every play. And if you had him in the second half of last year, he might have carried you into the playoffs. That's something where if his transfers over to this year, I mean, Keenan Allen could be in the top 3 discussion. If he could he could touch 110 receptions, 120 if that's chemistry and the way they used him last year keeps going. I mean, he could. Like I said, he's right there. Michael Thomas could be a league leader in receptions. He has showed some injuries over the course of his career. He has showed some times where he's not as consistent. So there is some things we got to look at to where the first half of the season, I think he was outside the top 24 receivers.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where we don't really know. Going into this year, if they're going to force feed him or if defenses are going to key in on him. But it's hard to key in on someone in the slot is my thing. He's still 6'2". That's big for a slot receiver. Like I said, he runs crisp routes. He gets open. I believe he's pretty much one of the safest receivers. Him and Michael Thomas are both extremely safe. You're looking at, 90-plus receptions if these guys both stay on the field for 16 games. The downside, I said, you've seen a little bit of the downside here and there throughout his checkered injury career. So it's, there is a little bit of downside. But I think if he plays his full 16, I think this offense going forward knows what they have in Keenan Allen, and they have a weapon. They lost Antonio Gates. Mike Williams, Tyrell Williams, they're guys. Can Mike Williams, be a first-round pick this year? We'll see. Maybe that can eat into the touchdown upside. But, no Gates and no Hunter Henry. I think even if Mike Williams eats him at touchdown upside, it still leaves plenty of targets to be seen in the end zone. So, I think he's a solid wide receiver 1.
Yes, some stats for him is he had 24 red zone targets, Keenan Allen. That was second most in the league. He had 15 targets inside the 10. That was also second most in the league. And you're saying that no Gates and no Hunter Henry. So, I mean, you got to think once they get close, he's the only receiver that Rivers has a real rapport with. I mean, he's probably going to target him. I mean, and also sometimes we're looking at receivers, I want to look at the quarterback. Like, how good is that quarterback doing? So some numbers on Rivers, he's 30-plus touchdowns. He's averaged 30 touchdowns the last 5 years. And he's gotten 4,400 or more passing yards 5 straight years. So, I mean, so he's thrown a lot of touchdowns. He's thrown a lot of yards. You're going to want the wide receiver 1 on that team for that quarterback who's thrown that's such a, huge production.
I agree. And I mean, his floor, if he stays healthy, I don't see him getting under 90 receptions for 1,000 yards. I mean, I think as far as the volume, if you're in any type of PPR,
He's a PPR machine.
It's just a PPR machine. I mean, you can't really. I mean, I'm trying to think of scenarios, but there's just a lack of weapons outside of him. Tyrell Williams has shown flashes to. He actually had a good year 2 years ago, but he added necessity because everyone else was down. Mike Williams. He's average to poor rookie year, but he's the book's not written on him yet, so we'll see what happens. But no Hunter Henry, no Gates. Tyler said Rivers. He's a yardage touchdown monster. Picks don't affect your receivers, so he can throw as many picks as he wants. I mean, if you're looking at him at like your back end to second round, I have no problem taking Keenan Allen. He could actually. I think he does have top 5 potential. especially if he hits the 100+ and hits the double-digit touchdown mark, he could even see top 3 potentially.
Yeah, 100%. Pretty much like you're saying, like Michael Thomas, one of the safest picks in the draft if he stays healthy and if I don't draft him. So I won't draft him, so that way everyone can draft Keenan Allen and he can be good for everyone else.
Hey, you heard it here. He's not drafting him, so go ahead and pick him up.
And that's something I like to put into my players when I come to draft. This is actually sidestepping for a little bit. Is like if I'm taking a player like Keenan Allen, does he have potential to finish in the top 3? Like I always weigh that into my decision. Like if I'm looking at Keenan Allen versus AJ Green, they're in the same range. As of right now in his career, I don't think AJ Green has the potential to finish in the top 3. And it's just bad line. Just Andy Dalton's not, the most efficient quarterback. But, I still think AJ Green is a solid top 10. But I think Keenan Allen has a realistic possibility to, you take that second half pace and, that's going to be extreme numbers. But, he has potential to finish in the top 3. And if I'm getting that in the back end of the second round, and I take that pick, and that does happen to be the scenario that plays out, I'm gaining so much value, almost like that Todd Gurley value last year where, he was the end of the second round, but he was a number 1 running back. I like that having tied into my second and third round picks to where, hey, this guy is a safe player, but he also has the upside of hitting for top 3 potential. Because if that happens, your team, you have an edge on the rest of your competition.
So you're confident with Keenan Allen? If say you go running back first round, you're confident with Keenan Allen as your wide receiver 1 throughout the year?
Yeah, I'm confident with that, especially in PPR. Even in non-PPR, with the red zone targets there and the loss of, options, I'm confident with as my number 1.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. All right, moving on to the what do we have?
Melvin Gordon.
13th now. So, yeah, we're going to go to Keenan Allen's teammate, Melvin Gordon.
Jeez. He sucks. He can't run for more than 3.8 yards per carry. I mean, that's kind of the opinion of most people, but this is a running back where you have to look at volume. Year after year, he sees volume. Is it the sexiest? No, it's not the sexiest yards per carry, but they just feed him 270 carries year after year. They give him the rock in the receiving game. They said they actually want to get him more involved in the receiving game, and I believe he had what was his reception total? Do you have it on hand? I think it was about 55.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't have that.
I know it was in that range, and I mean 275 carries, 55 receptions. You're looking in that 300 range. I mean he's a rock solid RB1, 10 plus touchdowns the last 2 years, I believe. He's a workhorse for his team. I mean, there's the worry that Eckler can maybe take a little bit of passing game work, but I think with the injuries they had, and reading the tea leaves of what the coaches are saying that we want to get him more passing game work. I mean, I don't see these numbers dipping too much, and. They get their first-round draft pick left tackle back this year. They signed Mike Pouncey for center. What does Pro Football Focus have him ranked on the offensive line? Do you have that?
Yeah.
And I know it's an upgrade. So, if this is a year where Melvin Gordon sees 4.5 yards per carry, and he gets 270, you can be looking at, him for 12, 13 on the ground, potentially double-digit touchdowns. Just like I touched on Keenan Allen, Melvin Gordon has top 5 potential written in him. And if he even gets more passing game work, 60+, I mean – that's literally the volume that Todd Gurley got last year, like 275 and around 60. That's Todd Gurley's volume. So I mean, if he's efficient this year with a new line, you have that potential tied into there.
Yeah, actually, he finished with only 1 less touch than Todd Gurley. So Todd Gurley had 343 touches. Melvin Gordon had 342 touches. He was the 4th most in the league. Another thing with Melvin Gordon is when they get close, they don't play around. They give him the ball, So he's 27 carries inside the 10. That was tied 3rd in the league. And he had 14 carries inside the 5, and that was also tied 3rd in the league. So he's finished as RB5 and RB7. And you're telling me you can get a potentially top 5 running back in the second round? I mean, I'm all about it. I love Melvin Gordon this year, and I've never been a Melvin Gordon guy either until I actually dug deep and looked at the numbers and looked at the situation and whatnot. And Melvin Gordon's a guy that I'm definitely going to be targeting in every draft I do.
Okay, knowing that, you might be able to get him in the live drafts, but obviously his ADP is at 11 right now.
It's at 109.
Even lower.
Yeah, it's even lower.
I'm confident I would take Melvin Gordon.
In PPR, he's 109?
At the 9th pick. I would take Melvin Gordon at the 9th pick.
I agree.
Yeah.
I would take him there. I think in home drafts he's even going to slip a little farther because there's that conception of Melvin Gordon sucks as a runner and he can't get over 4 yards a carry. And like I said, sometimes it's a product of the line. There was a stat I heard. Melvin Gordon was hit in the backfield, I think, on 55 runs last year. So you're saying 55 times he didn't even have a chance to make a play.
Yeah.
So, and like I touched on, this line is supposed to improve. So sometimes this yard per carry could be a product of the line. If you see him jump into the 4.4, 4.5, like Tyler said, he has just as many touches as Todd Gurley did last year, basically. And you see his receptions go up, even 5, 6, 7 receptions. He could finish in the top 5 running backs. And you're getting him outside of the top 5. And like I said, the public's perception of him is, he's not a good runner. So even though he's at RB7 right now, some people are going to be taking Saquon over him. Some people are going to be taking Kareem Hunt, Fournette over him. There's a chance you get him as a ninth running back off the board, and I feel like that's extreme value right there.
Yeah, great value. I mean, like you said, the line got better. They signed Mike Pouncey. He's a Pro Bowl center. They get their guard back. They drafted last year. They drafted the number 1 overall guard last year. They actually drafted the top 2 guards in last year's draft, and they get both of those guards back. And then they have Russell Okung, who is the top 10 left tackle. So they have some talent on the line. So I'm not worried about the line at all. I mean, you have Rivers. You said he's thrown the ball a ton, for a ton of passing yards. You can't stack the box on him. I mean, and if he's getting 340 touches, I mean, the top 5 in touches, yeah. And I'm getting that guy in the second round. Sign me up. I'm all about that.
I mean, he had 83 targets last year for 58 receptions. So I mean, if he jumps up to 90 and get in the 60s, that's just that's the workload's there. People, like, you don't have to. I didn't think he was, like, I was a yards per carry guy. Like, how good is a guy before I started digging into stuff. But that volume is undeniable. Those rushes, those receptions, and there was an interview I heard on a podcast where. He feels a little disrespected that he doesn't get labeled in with some of these other rushers like Todd Gurley. They came out in the same around the same draft, and they've gotten each other back and forth. And he's like, I want to be the league leading rusher. So when I hear players say like their personal goals are to lead the league in rushing, it makes me believe they're playing for more than just the paycheck. They're out there, like he says, like he has a vendetta. He feels like he's disrespected in the game, not fantasy community, because fantasy we love him, but as far as an NFL rusher, he straight up said, like, I feel disrespected. I feel like I don't get the love I deserve, and I want to lead the league in rushing. So he's playing with a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, I love him. Like I said, I'm targeting him in every draft possible. I think the ceiling is through the roof on him.
Okay, let's go into Kareem Hunt.
Kareem the Dream.
Do you guys think that Andy Reid will actually? Yeah, I feel like towards the end of the season last year, he started not using him as much.
For me personally, I love Kareem Hunt. I had him in a lot of leagues, and he helped me win a couple leagues actually. One of my favorite players, super good. I'm a little nervous because, originally he was supposed to be splitting carries with Spencer Ware last year. Spencer Ware obviously towards ACL, he was out, so it was just the Kareem show the whole year, But they went out and they signed Damian Williams, running back from Miami. He can run the ball and he can catch the ball, and Spencer Ware is healthy this year. I'm just not sure if he's going to get the same workload. I mean, he had 325 touches last year. That was 5th most in the league. I just don't know if he's going to repeat that. I mean, he could. I just don't know. I mean, if it's like a scenario, like I said right there, Melvin Gordon or Kareem Hunt, like I'm going to draft Melvin Gordon,
Yeah, I'd probably take Melvin over Kareem Hunt.
I would take Fournette over Kareem Hunt too, just because he's going to get Fournette's going to get a bigger workload. I would assume.
Who would you take? Okay, who would you take Kareem Hunt over?
I'm taking Kareem Hunt over like Dalvin Cook, Keenan Allen.
Stay with the running backs.
Yeah, Shaquan Barkley. I mean, he's still a top 10 running back. I mean, and I love him. The guy's super talented,
Yeah, I mean, they're saying they want to get him the ball. Same thing with Melvin Gordon. They want to get the ball more to him in the receiving game, which can only help his floor. The thing with PPR is if you're getting receiving volume, it raises your floor. And what I mean by floor is it raises the chance of you having a bust game. Even though people last year, like Kareem Hunt sucks for that 5-6 game stretch it was, he was still getting around 10 to 12 points because he was getting receptions, so his floor was raised. So if he sees even more volume, it's only going to make his floor even safer. Back to for a second to the Melvin Gordon, Kareem Hunt. Last year, the consistency between the two was Melvin Gordon finished in the top 24, 81% of the time versus Kareem Hunt 62% of the time. So that's roughly a 20% difference of him finishing in the top 24. And now that you have, worries of Ware or Damian Williams or someone stealing some touches, I feel a little bit more safer with do Gordon over Hunt.
I mean, one thing for him is you can't stack the box on him. I know you got Mahomes. It's pretty much his first year, taking over. But, I mean, they got some speed. They got Sammy Watkins, and they got Tyreek Hill on the outside. They got Kelsey in the middle. So, I mean, you can't stack the box on him. So, he shouldn't be facing too much, of defensive-wise. And I think he actually led the league in forced missed tackles.
Broken tackles, one of those stats. He was highly efficient as a runner. He was, as a rookie, making people miss. That's what I look for. Is he making people miss? Is he getting yards after contact? Is he doing these extra things that can translate whether the line or offense doesn't play up to its potential? And something where, I've always noticed and paid attention to is that rushing quarterbacks or quarterbacks that tend to rush also up the averages of the running backs.
Yeah, 100%.
And, Alex Smith ran, but I don't think teams are going to view Alex Smith the same way they view Mahomes. There might be some of those RPOs, like run pass option, where he's looking to either keep the ball or hand it off to Kareem Hunt. And that can only raise the efficiency out of Kareem Hunt. It's not going to hurt his efficiency, that's for sure. And if Patrick Mahomes does struggle this year, which there's a possibility, he's thrown a lot of picks in practice. I know it's practice, but if he struggles, they could lean on the run heavily this year.
That's true. I didn't think about that. Okay, so Kareem averaged 20 touches a game. You think stays the same, regression, or a little bit more uptick?
I think he's going to be around that same range. You always got to worry with Andy Reid. Is he going to ghost him for a game and forget he's on the team? He even says himself in press conferences like, "Oh yeah, Kareem Hunt, that guy. Like we got him. Maybe I should use him next game." Well, it's like you're the head coach. You make the calls. You have the players on your team. It doesn't make sense. But Andy Reid does tend to forget about players here and there. I mean, is there concern of Spencer Ware? Yeah, but he exploded his knee into 14 pieces. So we need to see if his knee's even going to come back the same. Damian Williams, he could play a role. But like I said, with the advanced metrics of him being an elusive runner, solid runner, like yards after contact, all that. I mean, if the workload dips to 240 carries, I still think he's a solid RB1. I don't think his receptions are going to see much of a dip. I mean, we do have to see Mahomes play because sometimes rushing quarterbacks don't throw to the running backs too much, and that is something that could. But I think Andy Reid's going to make Mahomes make a lot of safe throws. I watched the first preseason game when he was throwing screens, underneath passes, some of these routes to minimize mistakes. And I think Andy Reid's a good coach, and he's had RB1s more than any coach, I think, over the last 2 decades. And I think Kareem Hunt's, a safe pick. He's a sophomore. That could one of them bust? Yes. There's all these players could bust anywhere from number 1 to whatever. But, I think the percentage of him being a bust is, I think it's limited.
So his ADP is – the experts have him at 14, but his ADP is 9. So the ADP has him going in the first round. Are you confident with Kareem in the first round, or would you be more confident grabbing him in the second round?
No, for me, no. I think that, like you guys have just said, there's just too many variables between having Pat Mahomes take over the team as a quarterback, and then between that and then having, like you said, signing Damian Williams and just having Spencer Ware back. It's just like it's too many variables. I'm not going to risk it. I'm not going to put him in my first round. That's just not me.
Kareem's kind of where I draw that line to where if I'm at the back of the first and I have to choose between Dalvin, Kareem, and possibly DeAndre and Odell, or I mean, I don't know. Even if the league gets kind of all running backs, Antonio there. I mean, there's Antonio shows right here. His lowest draft position is the second round. So I mean, that's like some people in some like 12-team drafts have taken him there. But if I can get 2 top 3 receivers right there, he's kind of that's where I'm looking at that. Okay, can I get 2 elite wide receivers right here, or I'm going to take a guaranteed elite receiver right here, like a Julio, DeAndre, Odell, and if one of those falls back to me, cool, I'll take 2 of them. If one of them doesn't, I think the drop off between Kareem Hunt and if this thing would stop refreshing on itself, who's the running backs that are right after that? Even Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, Davante. There might not be much of a drop off getting those guys right there. So that's where Devontae Freeman, Dalvin Cook, those guys are going to probably see 220, 240 carries. 50. Cook could see 50+ receptions. Devontae, we got to see this year, but the drop off isn't that much. That's that cusp where I'm like, I'll take an elite receiver right here. Depending on just how I think the draft's playing out.
Yeah, like I said, I love Kareem Hunt. He stud, helped me win a couple leagues last year. I don't think I would take him in the first round. on the back end, come like a second round, the start of second round, that's probably where I would take him. I would rather try to grab a different running back or, like when you said, one of the stud wide receivers first before I came and got him. But even then, I don't know, like the tier that he's in, it's Melvin Gordon, Kareem Hunt, Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette. I don't even know, like, if those running backs are there, I think I'm taking Melvin Gordon and Fournette, like I said, over Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I agree. And if Saquon's there and you want to take Saquon, I'm not against the argument of taking Saquon
100%.
over him. All right, let's hit the next guy.
Let's move on. AJ Green, wide receiver, Cincinnati.
Out the natty.
The natty.
All right, well, if my thing would stop refreshing. AJ Green. So last year was a mild disappointment for AJ Green. The Bengals offense, though, was just atrocious. I almost want to say I dismissed last year a little bit. AJ Green's been a 1,000-yard receiver every year of his career, minus when he played 10 games. But in that season, he had 964 yards in 10 games. So, I mean, he was on pace for almost 1,400 yards that year.
It was 1,540 yards. He's on pace for that year.
He was he?
Yeah, 1,500. Yeah, it would have been his career best.
And that was literally just 2 seasons ago. And this offense last year was pathetic. This offense was a shell of the offense it's always been. Now, I know Andy Dalton is an elite quarterback, but he's flashed top 10 quarterback upside. He's actually finished in the top 10 a few times. And then they addressed their line. They have Bill Lazor took over, and the offense, got a little better as the season progressed. They have a whole offseason now to work on Bill Lazor's system. I don't think AJ Green's lost a step. He's going to be in that 130, 140, 120 at least conversation. I mean, Andy Dalton's even hyper targeted him before for 178 and 164 targets. He's never went under 100 receptions, so he's not that big reception over. But I mean, he had 75 last year on an offense that was just anemic. 8 touchdowns still. He's had over 10 touchdowns 3 times in his career. So, does he have that top 5 potential like we discussed? I don't think he has that anymore with just a lot of the new receivers in the game. But does he have top 10? Yes, he does have top 10. And I think he's fair to where you're drafting him. You're getting him at the end of the second, almost third round, and where you can take him and flip back and get another running back like very shortly after that. I like AJ Green. Like I said, he's you're pretty much locked in for 1,000 yards. You're going to be looking about, if this offense takes even a step up from where they were like almost historically bad last year. You got to figure he's going to see around the same volume. Push 80 catches, and he's AJ Green. Andy Dalton looks to him nonstop.
Yeah, AJ Green's one of my favorite players. I love him. The one thing with AJ Green is I'm not confident with him as my wide receiver 1. So, like, if I go running back in the first round and then I come back and AJ Green's there, I'm not really confident in being my wide receiver 1. Now, if I was to draft, like I said, like a Odell or Julio, and then I come back around, I get AJ Green as my second receiver, I'm psyched. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't have to rely on him to put up huge numbers every week. Like, he could have a bust week, but then I still have Odell or Julio, for example, to carry the workload on that. His receptions are what bother me. Like Anthony was saying, he's never topped 100 catches. His receptions are 75, 66, 86, 69. Those are not good. He had 2 years where he had 98 and 97, but that's like 5-6 years ago now, and good. Like I said, I would rather him be my wide receiver 2 instead of relying on him to be my wide receiver 1.
So here's what the AJ Green based off ADP. He's going at the 210. So if you don't take him there, you're looking at your next receiver picks would be along the lines of Stephon Diggs, T.Y. Hilton, Mike Evans.
I would much rather have those guys, I think, than AJ
Diggs
Green.
with Kirk Cousins.
Diggs maybe not, but actually no, Diggs. Yeah, we were talking about Diggs, but I think T.Y.'s prime for a huge bounce back year. I think Mike Evans is going to have a big bounce back year as well.
So the running backs right there would be Joe Mixon, Christian McCaffrey, Jerick McKinnon, and then you drop into like Alex Collins, LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah, out of those running backs, I'm drafting more with those running backs. But out of that tier of receivers, I think I would rather go with like a Mike Evans. Personally, I think I'd rather go with like a Mike Evans or a T.Y. over him. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like I like AJ. I mean, he's a stud. I mean, he's one of those players where he's a home run threat. He'll get you like 3 catches for 130 yards and a touchdown. Especially if you're in a league where you get bonuses. I mean, he's a perfect bonus kind of guy. I don't know how confident I personally am with him as my wide receiver 1.
I mean, I think I'm confident with the wide receiver 1, but what I look at right there is, this is the last of like after you take these running backs, it starts to get shaky. You look at Joe Mixon, relatively volume-wise, he should be pretty safe this year. Efficiency, we'll see what happens. He looked good in game 1. He made some big plays. Christian McCaffrey, PPR machine, safe. They're even saying they want to workhorse him, and they basically ran him out through the whole first drive. He's someone who might shoot up my draft board. Jerick McKinnon, I have different feelings on him, but if you feel like he's a workhorse, you still have those 3 guys at the end of like the workhorse tier, and then you dip right into Jerick McKinnon, Derrick Henry, LaShawn McCoy, who knows yet, Alex Collins, these are guys that have some question marks. So I kind of agree with what you're saying, whereas like if you can get one more kind of workhorse potential running back right there or high upside running back, and then dip into the T.Y. Hilton, Stephon Diggs instead of A.J. Green, I feel like you're not missing too much right there.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel, Mike?
Yeah, Adam, I'm not sure if I'm going to draft A.J. Green. I would just based on his ADP, I might actually just where he's at. I don't know. Last year he disappointed a lot of people.
I mean, I guess if you can get a stud running back in the first round, and then you come back around and you're saying what he's going like 210, and you get AJ Green, and then now you come back around and you can get like Ty and Mike Evans, and you have AJ Green plus Mike Evans or T.Y. Hilton. I mean, that's not a bad 1-2 combo.
Right.
Well, I mean, the running backs, here's a scenario too, is where if you're picking in that back half of the round, those running backs could all be gone, hypothetically speaking. Christian McCaffrey could be gone because some leagues are going to value running backs is like the new hotness. A couple years ago it was receivers. Right now it's running backs. So, you could be looking at getting like a Le'Veon Gurley in your top 1 or 2 picks, and then coming back and Keenan Allen, Davante Adams are going right there. If running backs go heavy, you could be looking at a mixture of like, with your back-to-back picks right there. Instead of taking like reaching for a JHI in the 3rd round, you could be looking at, okay, I got a solid workhorse 1. I can get value with my running backs later in the draft. Why not take A.J. Green and Keenan Allen right here? And that'd be a solid duo combo right there, like A.J. Green and Mike Evans, or A.J. Green and T.Y. Hilton, or, even, that's kind of where I'm looking personally to take A.J. Green, is that back end to where all the workhorse running backs or potential workhorses are gone, but I can snag 2 potential top 10 receivers, and I already have an elite running back.
Yeah,
and that's not a strategy. That's something I'm not opposed to, and that's where I think AJ Green is going to have a lot of value for some teams right there. Because instead of reaching for, oh crap, all the running backs are gone, I need to take a reach right here. You could get, like I said, AJ Green and maybe Keenan Allen, or AJ Green and maybe Davante Adams, or Mike Evans. And if you could snag 2 of those receivers, you have 2 2 top 10 options, top 12, and you have one of the elite top 5 running backs. That's where you gain draft value. Instead of reaching for a running back and you're getting a 4th round grade, 5th round grade running back when you could have had, AJ Green still is a 2nd round grade in my opinion.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So you're still getting a 2nd round grade at receiver and another 2nd round grade receiver at your 3rd round picks.
Yeah.
All right, well, moving on. Going to the 16th overall. We're going Davante Adams. So Davante Adams is a guy right here too. Like if he's there and it's AJ Green, I'm taking Davante Adams. I want Aaron Rodgers to be throwing my receiver the ball, not Andy Dalton. I know, Anthony. I know you've done some pretty good research on this for Davante and the Green Bay Packers receivers. If you want to go over that.
Yeah, we'll touch on that in another episode because it basically comes down to more of the wide receiver too. Aaron Rodgers can carry 2 top 24 wide receivers,
but he always has a receiver that finishes in the top. Yeah,
when he has this guy and he's healthy, they're always in the top 10. I mean, Jordy Nelson has finished in the top 3 multiple times. I'm going to pull it up right now. I
think he's had 12 touchdowns back-to-back years.
Yeah, he's been double-digit touchdowns playing with Brent Hundley under center last year. He still put up numbers. He's going to be the number 1 target this year for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is borderline a lock for 33-plus touchdowns. I mean, if you tell me Davante Adams finishes the year with 17 touchdowns, it would not surprise me. I mean, is it a high possibility? No, but is it a possibility? Yeah, like he could just have that massive touchdown outbreak with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I love Davante Adams this year. Like another player I'm going to be targeting in every draft I do. I mean, like I said, I want the number 1 receiver from Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is the QB1 going off the board, and he's, like you said, throwing for 30 plus touchdowns, 4,500 plus yards. Like, that's just like an average season for him, And so no Jordy Nelson, that's a huge production gone. And even with Jordy, he was still getting 12 touchdowns a season. So, I mean, yeah, I think he could easily finish. I mean, would you be surprised if he finished as the number 1 overall receiver?
No, not at all. And I think last year him playing with Hundley, if you had questions about his talent level, like his first few years in the league weren't the greatest, but last year with the stats he put up with Hundley, I mean, I feel like after that you can't really doubt his talent level. I feel like he's a talented receiver, and now having a full year with Aaron Rodgers as his go-to number 1, he was already facing number 1s. Teams were viewing him as a number 1 last year with Jordy there, and with Brett Hundley, he still put up, was it 9 something and how many touchdowns? 10?
I think he had 12. No.
Yeah, 12 touchdowns. So he was still putting up, I mean, numbers. So this year with Aaron Rodgers back and then healthy, like I said, I mean, if anyone's going to shoot for over 15 touchdowns as a receiver, and I want you make me bet it, I'm going to take Davante Adams as the favorite.
So yeah, after Jordy left, I was pretty sold.
Yeah.
On Davante Adams.
Yeah, he had 50% of his games last year as a number 1 receiver, which was tied with Odell Beckham, and he was wide receiver 1 or 2. He was. Let's see, where's he at? Drops down a little bit right there. I gotta find him. I lost him, but 50% of the games last year were wide receiver 1, so you were getting top 12, and that's not even with Aaron Rodgers on the field. I mean, so that number could shoot up with Aaron Rodgers on the field to maybe 60, 65%. That's an elite level.
So, yeah, an interesting stat for him is he was actually the 3rd most consistent receiver. It went last year. It was DeAndre Hopkins, Antonio Brown, and then Davante Adams. So, I mean, he was better than Odell, Larry Fitz, Keenan Allen, Landry, Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, A.J. Green, Mike Evans, like all those guys. So, the 3rd most consistent, and like you're saying, those, good chunk of games with Brent Hundley at quarterback. Now you get Aaron Rodgers, discount, double-checking, touchdowns to him left and right. I'm all in on Davante Adams. I think he's a steal in the second round.
He could be the number 1 receiver. He could be top 5 scorers overall. He has that upside. When you're drafting at the back of the second and you're getting top 5 pick upside, like that's how you get an edge on your opponents.
I'm not mad at it.
All right, so Mr.
Just want to move on. Let's go to Dalvin Cook. What are you gonna call him, Mr. What?
So let's do this, Mr. Mike. Dalvin Cook. 4-game sample size, the guy was looking elite. I'm not one to read into too many of like 4-game sample sizes, but the Vikings in general last year ran the ball, I believe 28 attempts per game. And I know that Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon both saw heavy workloads. So there's the worry about, is Latavius Murray going to eat into some of that workload? And, I think this is the first time we'll see both of them healthy on the field. I think he's still going to see some carries. And even if you give him 10 carries a game, that still leaves, 15 possibly plus carries to Dalvin Cook, who showed, elite level production. He was a yard per carry more efficient than both backs. He was, I believe, 2 yards per catch more efficient than the other backs. Just the efficiency standpoint, as long as I haven't seen him yet because he hasn't played yet, before I make my verdict out a little farther, I want to see how he looks in this preseason. Does he look like he did pre-ACL tear? But he's a running back that does have that top 5 upside potential. He's someone who could see 270 touches. I think if you took Murray's pace out last year and paced it out, he would have saw 270 carries, and McKinnon still would have saw about 200 carries. And I know it's a new year, new scheme, so you can skew those numbers a little bit, but if you want to say it's about 200 to 250, like he's still seeing 250 carries, and Murray he's a non-factor in the passing game. So Cook is going to borderline see all of the passing game work, and that's where I think it makes his floor a little safe. There is the worry of the goal line work, and that's yet to be seen and whether he comes back the same, but I see him being a guy of 40-plus receptions, most likely 50-plus receptions. And like I said, that running back workload should be there.
Me and you, we definitely don't see eye to eye on Dalvin Cook. And my thing with Dalvin Cook is this. I think the guy's super talented. I'm not doubting the talent. The thing with him is he came out those first 4 games and he exploded onto the scene, but it was just him. And that was it. I mean, Latavius Murray, he was still kind of battling an ankle injury, so he wasn't 100%. McKinnon was kind of just like a change of pace guy because face it, Dalvin Cook is just he's a better version of McKinnon. So that kind of bothers me. He was getting such a huge workload. This is my opinion. I don't think they're going to feed him the ball the way they did at the start of last year. I think they're going to want to like ease him in. He's still come back from the ACL tear, and Latavius Murray is a big guy. I mean, he was up in the league. Like I think he was like top 5 or top 10 inside the red zone carries, and so that just bothers me. I mean, I'm worried that Dalvin Cook's going to be like a 20-20 guy or even like a 10-10 guy, and then all of a sudden they get inside the 10-yard line and like they bring him in and Latavius Murray, vultures like a 2-yard touchdown. That's the only thing that worries me with him, and I just think his draft price is too high for me personally. I feel like there's too many question marks. Something to counter that, though, that would actually support you is interesting stat was both McKinnon and Latavius Murray both had 200 plus touches last year. So McKinnon had 201 touches and Latavius Murray had 234 touches. So I guess there is a possibility where both running backs could see 200 plus touches.
And I like that they're tied to a potential elite defense.
100%.
And then they have a quarterback that should theoretically keep the ball moving, give more scoring opportunities. Like I said, they both saw the ball over 200 times. Last year, I have the stats right here. Latavius Murray was on pace for 270 season carries, 16.8 per game, and Jerick McKinnon still saw 11.6. So that's only a 5 per carry game difference. I think there's going to be work. I think there's actually value in both running backs here. I'm not going to reach for Dalvin Cook, but if he falls to me at the right price, I won't be afraid to take him because if talent trumps here and if the efficiency is just a night and day difference, which is potentially, he could see the higher, he might push 18 carries a game and leave Latavius Murray at 9. This is just theoretical, I'm speaking. But if he's inefficient and Dalvin Cook's efficient again, and like I said, he's basically a non-factor in the passing game. He only had 15 catches last year. Comes out to 1 catch per game. Whereas Jerick McKinnon had 41 catches in his since the time where Dalvin Cook went down. So I mean, even if he's losing some touchdown work, he's not the highest touchdown upside guy. If I'm getting him as my RB2, I'm okay with that. I don't know how confident I feel with him as my RB1 though. That's why I'd rather take a receiver over Dalvin Cook as my RB1.
For me, it's just his draft price is just too high for too many uncertainties. I mean, he's getting drafted in the same tier of Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, Davante Adams, even a Christian McCaffrey, who's going to, PPR machine. I just feel for where he's getting drafted at, I would rather take a guy who I'm not going to have to worry about. I'd rather take a for sure workhorse back or an elite receiver, maybe even like a Keenan Allen or maybe a Michael Thomas falls to you right there. I would feel more comfortable drafting one of those guys instead of playing Russian roulette in a sense with Dalvin Cook, not knowing exactly what's going to happen,
Yeah, I mean, he's around the range of Kareem Hunt and Melvin Gordon. I would take Melvin Gordon over him. If you wanted to make the case for Dalvin Cook over Kareem Hunt, I wouldn't be against it. I think Dalvin Cook could actually see a little more volume and be tied to an elite defense, which leads to more short fields, more scoring opportunities. I mean, you saw the year where LaShawn McCoy even got vultured by I don't even remember the name.
Carlos Williams
or someone like 10 plus times. LaShawn McCoy was still a top 6-7 back. So I mean, if they're going to be a top end defense and have plenty of scoring opportunities, even if he's getting vultured, he still has that upside tied into him. But like I said, he's going 112. I'd rather take a receiver at that point than I would Dalvin Cook. Like Tyler touched on the worry about the end zone getting vultured away from Latavius Murray. That's actually something I'm starting to warm up to, and I think it's a realistic possibility. The possibility is coming off an ACL tear, and they could ease him into the year. These are just some question marks where I don't know if I want to deal with these question marks at the end of the first round, where I'd rather take a top 5 receiver I know that's guaranteed into that spot based off ADP.
All right, comes to you, and it's Cook or Fournette. You taking Cook or Fournette?
I have Fournette higher in my rankings.
Fournette.
I'll take Cook. I'll take Cook over Kareem Hunt. I would probably take Fournette over Cook though.
Yeah, you think Gordon over Cook or no?
Yeah, I would take Gordon over Cook.
Yeah, I think I'd almost gear. I want to see how it looks preseason. Like I said, let's see how he plays on the field. But
I don't even think he played in the first preseason
no,
game.
he didn't yet. So that's the preseason's going to dictate my ranking on him a lot.
And Latavius didn't look bad. It's preseason, obviously, but he didn't look bad. I mean, and Latavius is a big guy. I think he's like 6'2", 6'3", like 230 pounds. I mean, like, he's a big guy, and they obviously went out and signed him for a reason. I mean, I don't doubt that they're going to use Dalvin Cook. For me personally, I'm afraid of the workload. Like, is he going to see a 250 plus touches? Like, I mean, as my running back too, okay, maybe. But I mean, like you said, even in that tier, there's other running backs that I could possibly get. I mean, if you could draft, I don't know, you draft like a Kamara or a David Johnson, and then it comes back around, and you can grab a Fournette or a Melvin Gordon. I mean, I would rather have that instead of Dalvin Cook.
I think we're on this. I think we're on the same page about it, the way we feel. I'm just more. I think I'm buying in more to his upside than you are, is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I think none of us are really targeting Dalvin Cook, though.
Yeah.
Like, we're all pretty much saying the same time, like, if it falls into our lap and it makes sense, okay, yeah, for sure, I'll draft them. But nobody's going, like, with what you said about Davante Adams, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely targeting him in my drafts. It's just like none of us are doing that for Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I mean, if Dalvin Cook falls to me at 207, I can get him after having a solid RB1. I'm like, well, I could have potential 2 top 6 running backs. Like, I'll take him there. I'll take a shot at it.
Yeah, 100%. I get what you're saying.
All right, you guys want to move on? Let's talk Leonard Fournette.
Me and Tyler are pretty much on the same page with this, so I'm going to take off for 2 seconds, and he could just touch on Leonard. We're like, I think we're pretty much literally on the same page with this.
I love Leonard Fournette. I'm all in on Fournette this year. So an interesting stat for the Jaguars is, I think they were ranked second in the league with yards before contact. So they were tied second with the Rams at 1.89 yards before contact. So meaning almost 2 yards before he even got touched. Now that means that their line was good. And this offseason they went out and they signed the #1 overall guard from Pro Football Focus. So you're telling me the line was already tied second best in the league in yards before contact, and now they just went out and they signed the best guard in the entire league? I mean, that means the line's just got even better. I mean, and Fournette's the type of guy where, they're giving him the ball. He had 304 total touches last year. I mean, and he can catch the ball too. It's not like he can't, catch the ball out of the backfield. So goal line back. I mean, another thing with that too is when asking the coach, what would be the ideal amount of times you would want Blake Bortles to throw the ball a game, and the coach's response was 0. He said 0 times. So that's, I mean, he wants to run the ball, and Fournette's going to get the ball a ton. I mean, they got rid of Chris Ivory, who was like a power back as well. They still have TJ Yeldon, which I think is going to get some run. I mean, TJ Yeldon's pretty good actually. So I mean, he'll get his touches, he'll get his catches and whatnot, but I mean, I'm all in on Fournette. I picked 9th in one of my leagues, and I've been doing a lot of mocks, and I've been grabbing Melvin Gordon in the first round and then Fournette in the second round, and it's just, I mean, if I can get those 2 guys as my running backs, I'm fucking psyched.
Yeah, last year I wasn't a fan of Fournette. You know what? It's just rookies for me. I think that's what it is. I just kind of stay away, but definitely this year is something you know why? Because last year it seemed like he didn't really prove himself. He didn't really like put up crazy numbers. You can prove me wrong probably in that binder right there, but I feel like just because he didn't prove himself, his ADP is a little bit lower. And I think, like you said, signing that guard, just there's like a lot of factors that are going up for him and making him look a little bit better. So yeah, I'm definitely looking to get Fournette in any of my leagues.
Yeah, so he ranked 3rd in the league in touches a game. So he averaged 23 touches a game. I mean, this is the thing Anthony talks about, volume. It's all about volume. You want players that are going to be getting the ball a lot, and you want players to be getting the ball when they get close to the goal line. And I mean, that's what they do. When they get close, they're feeding Fournette the rock. I mean, he had 1,040 yards in 13 games. He got hurt a couple games. I think it was like an ankle injury or something like that. But he was on pace for 1,280 yards. So, I mean, it's not unrealistic to think that, this year he could do the same exact thing, 12 to 1,300 yards. I think he can get 10-plus touchdowns easy. I mean, I don't know. I'm all in on Fournette. I love him, and another player that I'm targeting in every draft.
Did you guys discuss, I think part of I don't know if you guys touched on this, is injuries, part of the worries for people?
No, we haven't talked that. You want to go over that?
So I think part of the reason his ADP is a little lower is, he's came with a checkered injury history. He's a violent runner. So he tends to go into contact instead of avoid contact. And I think that's part of the worries with some people is, he's had ankle injuries. He's going to have another ankle injury, or, he's gonna get hurt, not going to be the full 16. I feel like some of that is baked into his ADP, but I'm personally, I don't ever.
Yeah, you remember that? Remember when he said he did the freaking Matrix? Come on. So who was that? Vince Williams, or who was that on that?
Yeah, I heard that was the first game or preseason game, right?
No, it was like week 5 when it was the first time we played the Jags.
Oh yeah, he told the guy like, "Come on, let's go." And
he did the fuck
his ass.
Yo, he did the Matrix. This thing in middle of the play, dude. To
like, come here, I'm about to fucking run you over.
That's literally like
step up to the plate, son. You're about to get this.
People aren't wrong when they're a little bit scared of him taking on tackles, like you just said.
Yeah, but I mean, if he goes into the full 16, I mean, he's going to be a value where you pick him. I mean, if you get Leonard Fournette as your RB1 and Julio Jones as your wide receiver 1, I mean, that's a great start to your draft
for sure.
And that's or Odell and Leonard, sub whoever you want out the receiver, but. I mean, that's a solid, like, weekly running back 1 and wide receiver 1 combo right there. And if I'm in the back end of the draft, that's something where I'm ecstatic to get right there,
Well, he finished as the RB8 last year, and that was, like you said, that was only in 13 games. But he was on pace, and if he would have kept going the full 16 games, he would have finished as RB4. And then I think maybe his ADP would have been a lot higher than it is currently. I think he's a steal. I think he's great value right there in the second round. I was telling Mike. I did some mocks where I was getting Melvin Gordon, and then I'm getting Fournette as my RB2, and it's like, man, if I can get Fournette as my second running back, I mean,
it's gnarly.
Guess what? My dick is getting hard thinking about it.
And then my dick, because I'm watching your dick get hard, and then Leonard Fournette's dick gets hard, and then Anthony, you better stay soft in that little corner over there, okay, Anthony?
Just another interesting stat: the Jags averaged 33 rushing attempts last year, and that was actually number 1 in the NFL. So yeah, like I said, they want to run the ball. So they drafted Fournette for a reason. They want to feed him the ball, and I think 300 plus touches is a lock for him.
Yeah, big fans of Fournette.
And I mean, if that ankle holds up and he doesn't get injured, I know his yards per carry dipped once he had the ankle injury. I'm just looking at it right now. He had a couple games over 6.5 yards per carry, 6.2 yards per carry, went for 180, 130. 3.8, 3.5, so a little inefficiency in there still. But then after the ankle injury, he comes back 1.9, 4.0, 2.1, 2.9, 4.2, 2.7, 3.6. So he never really, once he injured that ankle, never really had those explosive 6 yards per carry, 7+ yards per carry game, which running backs have here and there. So, I mean, if that ankle holds up, I mean, you could even see a higher yards per carry this work, or see some even more. Leonard Fournette, 27 totes for almost 200 yards on the ground. I think that's baked into. Can he finish number 1 like we talk about? Yes, he's one of the running backs who can.
I mean, they say like they're giving him the ball a ton. They have a solid line that just got better. Good defense. Game scripts could be favoring them to where they're going to be running the clock out in some games. I'm all in.
Elite defense. I take him over Hunt. Like I said, I don't see Hunt having the number 1 overall season. I just don't think he has enough volume. He needed a lot of dominoes to go his way.
Yeah.
Possibly some injuries to where I could see Leonard Fournette just being a volume monster and just getting that number 1 spot.
Yeah.
You guys want to move on?
Draft Fournette.
Yeah. Yeah. That's basically what we're saying. That was like wah, 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 instead of in that what was that show?
Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown. Yeah. Instead of like the parents wah wah wah, it was us draft Leonard Fournette, draft Leonard Fournette, draft Leonard Fournette. Basically said draft Leonard Fournette in 80 different ways. Yeah. Okay, number 19, Christian McCaffrey.
So the reports are that supposedly Jonathan Stewart's no longer there, that they want to give McCaffrey the ball 25 to 30 times. Now, I find that kind of hard to believe. I don't think he can sustain that physically.
I think he would explode after touch 20.
I mean, they also went and they signed.
Are those touches?
They also went out and they signed C.J. Anderson, which actually his Pro Football Focus rating was really good. He was one of the most elusive backs, and I think he had one of the top 10 broken tackles or something like that. McCaffrey's real value is in the passing game. PPR monster, I'm not sure exactly how many targets did he have last year.
I don't know. My laptop died, so I'm out of the quick stat thing. So on McCaffrey, I've been going back. He's one of those players where I'm playing tug of war. I'm moving him up, I'm moving him down, I'm moving him up, I'm moving him down. I'm like, okay, last year he had a little bit of like a perfect storm where no Greg Olsen. Kevin Belvin was traded away. Whatever that guy's name is. Just call him
Kelvin Benjamin?
What's the tree from
Wait, what?
Guardians of the Galaxy?
Groot.
Just call Kelvin Benjamin Groot because he's a giant tree out there.
Do you see that? Did you see his catch, by the way, during preseason?
Benjamin?
Yeah, did you see that?
Yeah, I saw all
That's
his
pretty
catches. Where was I?
Sorry.
I am Groot. So he had a little bit of a perfect storm to give him all his receptions. So it was like, Olsen back. They drafted DJ Moore. They have Funchess. They're going to get more Curtis Samuel involved this year. It's something where I was like, is he going to eat into his volume a little bit? But then I look at Norv Turner. That's the coordinator right this year, right?
Norv Turner, yeah.
He has no problem throwing to the running backs.
Yeah, he loves throwing the ball to the running back.
So that kind of blocked my skepticism there. The carry department. They're saying that they want to give him all these carries, and I think it's unrealistic that happens. But what do you have for touches from last year on the ground? 118, something like that? Even if he shoots up into the 150 range, which isn't unrealistic, and he stays around the same targets, I think for your RB2 / he's basically a wide receiver as well. In a PPR, I think where he's going, if you can get him at that turn, that's a solid pick right there. They're saying they want to workhorse him. We'll see, because I do think C.J. Anderson is a lot better version of Jonathan Stewart. And you still have Cam Newton as a goal line back and C.J. Anderson as a goal line back. So I think the touchdown upside is limited. So do I see him as a number one? No. But do I see him as a safe pick? I think he could be a safe pick there. And if they give him, 175 carries, it can only make his floor rise a little bit more, which is a possibility. Maybe they go 150 on the ground for CJ and, 150, 175 for McCaffrey. They did pay a high price for him, and maybe they do want to feature him a little bit. So that's something I'm going to keep an eye out for. Like I said, preseason game 1, they literally had him out there the whole drive. They gave him the goal line carry. They threw the ball to him twice. They ran him 4 times. So 1 week, they're kind of putting their money where their mouth is. So let's see what happens the rest of the preseason, though.
Yeah, so some stats on him is McCaffrey averaged 7 targets a game last year. It's pretty good for a running back. 80 receptions. He had 8 targets inside the 10-yard line, and that was 7th most in the NFL. And that was most on the team. That was more than Funchess. That was more than anyone. So when he got into the red zone, Cam Newton was looking for him. McCaffrey's value for me isn't in the run game. It's in the passing game. Like I said, 80 receptions.
He's not a running back, dude. He's a receiver.
Yeah, he's a receiver.
Receiver with running back value.
Yeah, with running back
extra value.
He's a receiver. He's a guy especially for PPR that I love. I think he's a good safe floor. For him. One thing that kind of worries me with the Panthers is they just been losing. Like we just touched on it. The Jags signed the number 1 overall guard. That guard was from Carolina, so they lost him. Their right tackle, which was ranked the 3rd best ranked tackle on Pro Football Focus, he's hurt, and they just lost another player as well. So the line kind of scares me for the running purpose wise. But like I said, McCaffrey's value isn't necessarily in the running game; it's in the passing game. And you think maybe he can even get 100 catches?
Realistic possibility, especially if that running game is, like I said. We both agree that they're not a run first team with him. Or if C.J. Anderson struggles, they both struggle. It might be that Russell Wilson, for Cam Newton, you're gonna get the ball hiked and scramble and make something happen.
Yeah.
So and especially if that defense isn't a top defense, and they're trailing, it's gonna be game script because C.J. Anderson isn't a pass catching back. Yeah. He can catch the ball if he needs to, but he's not really a pass catching back. If this defense can't keep up with the Saints, if they can't keep up with the Falcons, if even Jameis Winston back, if they can't keep up with the Bucks scoring wise and some of these other NFC teams that are all high powered offenses, McCaffrey could game script his way to 100 catches. And like I said, we both agree that line's gonna be pretty bad. So that run game as a whole might have to shut down. Whereas you look at Seattle last year, perfect example. They ran for 100 yards a game. I just did some stats today on them, but only 60 of it came from the running backs per game, and that might be the case in Carolina. It might be that the running backs just can't, not even due to them, it's just the line might be bad. They might not be able to get anything going on the ground. So now you're going to have Cam Newton doing some of the rushing. You're going to have Cam Newton scrambling and doing some dump offs. So I could see McCaffrey pushing the 100 catch mark for sure. And I think with this line bat, if he runs for 3.5 versus 3.9 with a bad line, it's not going to make much of a difference. He might lose 80 yards in the year, but if he gets you 20 more catches, he's going to be that much more valuable because a catch versus a carry is a big difference in a PPR.
Yeah, I think it's super safe pick PPR wise. Like an RB2, just every week you're putting him in there. Like I said, you're not really worried about the rushing. He's a receiver. He's a receiver. You know, you're gonna get those receptions.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a Le'Veon-esque or Gurley in the first, you're looking at 70, 80 receptions right there, especially with Le'Veon. And then you come back and get McCaffrey at the turn. I mean, your 2 running backs right off the bat could have 80 receptions.
Yeah, that's solid.
And then if you take, whatever receiver, T.Y. Hilton or, Doug Baldwin or
Mike Evans.
You're looking at another 80 reception guy right there. Your PPR value is going to be solid right there.
How you feel, Mike?
Honestly, I'm not really looking to grab Christian McCaffrey. I don't know.
Hey, I'll take it.
Sorry.
I think Mike got lost.
Yeah, my bad. I was.
All right, so we hit number 20, our final.
All right, number 20. What is it? The Gronk or Bonk?
Gronk or Bonk?
Or Bonk.
All right,
Gronk
so
or Bonk.
I'll touch on Gronk. I don't have any stats. My computer died, but I don't even need stats for Gronk. The tight end position it gets ugly really fast. And like I stated in episode 2, if you guys haven't checked it out, you can check it out on the YouTube, the SoundCloud, wherever else we have it.
Yeah.
I'll leave Mike up to the end of the episode. Touch that.
We're working on iTunes. It's a long story, but yeah.
But I mean, Gronk is, if he plays a full 16, you're borderline. So when you're picking positions, you're trying to say who's the highest percentage of finishing at number 1. Like now, Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, we all, think they have a shot at number 1, but their percentage is probably 15 to 20%, somewhere in that range. Now, same with wide receivers. Antonio Brown might be 25. These other guys, 15, 20. But Gronk, legitimately, if he plays 16 games, I'd put his average about 40 to 50% of finishing at the number 1. Tyler, would you kind of agree in that range?
Yeah, 100%.
And he's just a positional value, like week in and week out. He just gives you that, hey, we're battling. Your tight end's going to score 7. Mine's going to score 28. And that's could be the difference in the week right there. He could literally just single-handedly win you weeks at the tight end position. And he's falling into that back end of the second, early third. So if you're already getting a workhorse, like a Le'Veon or even a Zeke, and you can get a solid wide receiver, another solid running back right there, and take Gronk, or take Gronk and get another RB2, like a Joe Mixon right there, and basically consider Gronk your number 1 wide receiver / number 1 tight end overall. I just think the value for potential for Gronk is, we touched on in episode 2, no Edelman for 4 games, the loss of Brandon Cooks. What does this do? Where do these targets go? Where do these air yards go? I mean, he has chemistry at Gronk. Gronk could push 15 touchdowns plus. I mean, he's done it before. I don't know if he has his touchdown high on deck, but he's had some big years. He can get 80 plus catches, 1,200 yards. I think he actually finishes in a top 10 wide receiver ranking when he finishes as tight end.
Yeah, he's. I mean, obviously he's the tight end 1, but I mean, realistically, he's a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, he's like a wide receiver 8 or 9. I think if you just take out the tight end position and treat Gronk as a wide receiver, I think when he plays his 16, he ends up being like a wide receiver 7 or wide receiver 8 in that range.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at 1,000+ yards and double-digit touchdowns pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, red zone monster. I mean, no Julian Edelman for the first 4 games. The thing with Gronk is just always, can he stay on the field? I mean, I'm not sure if he's played a full 16-game season in ever.
It's been a minute.
But, I mean, his finishes are tight end 1, tight end 24 last year, the year before that he got hurt, and then tight end 1 and tight end 1. I mean, so
so 75%, and he probably would have been tight end 1 if he didn't get hurt that year.
Yeah, he got in the year tight end 16, he got hurt, tight end 4, and then tight end 1. So it's he's Gronk. They'll just the thing with Gronk is are you willing to take the gamble on him, possibly getting hurt? I mean, guy's falling apart, it seems like. But
Yeah,
I mean,
dude,
he's just a savage.
Dog, he looks like a bionic man, bro. He looks like
he's like Jax out there.
That dude looks like a bionicle, dude. He's got a
seriously.
brace on every limb of his body,
I think
dude.
he's even as big as Jax.
It's ridiculous how much. He looks like a robot. He looks like Robo Gronk, RoboCop.
I mean, we took Gronk in a league together. I took Gronk in a different league in the second round. I mean, and he panned out for me perfectly. You know what I'm saying? So, some people could say wait on tight ends. You can grab tight end later, but I mean, if you want to take Gronk in the second round, I mean, go for it. It's just, I mean, he's like you said, he's a savage.
You're gonna
It's Gronk.
If you match up by position, if you have Gronk, as long as he stays healthy, you're pretty much gonna win that position every time.
100%. Yeah.
He can
It's just
he
like-
can single-handedly like Gurley and Bell can carry you to like weak wins. Like Gronk is the same. He can single-handedly carry you to a weak win. You might have, even across the board, and then they're someone streaming I don't know. Let's just say they're streaming Trey Burton or like a David or Kittle that week, and they're just going for someone random, and they put up a 5 spot, and Gronk puts up a 30 burger. Like, that can literally just win you your week right there.
Think about this. Every time I'm playing fantasy and I'm going up against somebody and I see Gronk's on the team, I'm just like, oh God, fucking damn. Like, dude, every time I'm just like, damn.
You don't want to get bonked by him.
Yo, it's better. It's like you'd rather have him on your team just so you don't have to play against him. Because it honestly does stress me out a little bit every time I have to go up against Gronk.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, automatically you're gonna have in that position right there. You're gonna have a huge advantage. Immediately. I don't even think even if it's Gronk versus Ertz, I think you still have a huge advantage there. You Gronk versus Kelsey, you still have a huge advantage there. I mean, it's Gronk. I mean, that's all you can say is Gronk.
Yeah,
It literally comes down to, do you want to take that gamble of the injury risk? And
that's it.
I'm Ricky Bobby. I'm there to take first. And
Yeah.
if you're not first, you're last. So I have no problem taking Gronk right there because he gives me that edge, that value. Even if I lose him for 2 weeks in the middle of the season, I can stream for 2 weeks and pick him back up for the playoffs. I've had him in leagues before, and he's just carried me. Like, even if you have someone go down for a week, Gronk can get you I think he's like maybe one of, like you said, even Ertz and Kelsey. I don't know if Ertz and Kelsey can really go for 8 for 150 and 2 or 3 touchdowns. And Gronk is like the one tight end who could do that. He could have that Antonio Brown game as a tight end. And then you're ready where you're getting him right now at the back end of a second, early third, like possibly early third. Like, you already have your Le'Veon Bell, your Zeke, your David Johnson. So if I know I can take Gronk and piggyback with like a Joe Mixon, I don't know, Jordan Howard, Davante Freeman, I could have 2 solid running backs, and my wide receiver 1 is basically my tight end is basically my wide receiver 1. And he's healthy 16. Gronk basically finishes inside the top 12 wide receivers.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm still getting a
100%.
top 12 wide receiver at that like tight end position, and then if I hit on one wide receiver right in the next round, which is to say I take a Diggs or Amari Cooper or a high upside guy, and they get me top 10 potential, Adam Thielen, whoever, then I'm just like, you're in the driver's seat for a successful season.
Yeah, you know why you draft Gronk? I'm gonna tell you why. Because he's got fucking Tom Brady, and Tom Brady's the fucking GOAT. And when you got the fucking GOAT throwing you the ball, it doesn't fucking matter because he's got Tom Brady throwing him the ball. That's it. Draft Gronk.
All right, fellas, I'm out. I got to go to work. These two can finish the podcast, but
All right, everybody. That was it. Anyway, that was the 11 through 20 right there. Next episode, we're gonna be breaking down 21 through 30. So thanks for listening. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys. Also, like we said in the beginning, check out our Instagram. That's honestly, the Instagram is where we're posting most of our stuff right now. Stats, stuff like that. Just player breakdowns. Jesus Christ, I'm losing this. But yeah, go check out our Instagram. Go check out our website, averagebrosfantasyfootball.com. That's it. Anything else?
Just if you guys have any questions, feel free to email us or hit us up on the Instagram. That would probably be the best.
Yeah,
bet.
just shoot us a message on Instagram if you have a question.
And like I said, we're not experts. We're just a couple guys. We do a ton of research. We look into some stats. We're digging deep. So we just want to give you guys that advice right there. And if we could give you the best tools to make the right decision for you guys, that's just ultimately what we want to do for you. So yeah, shoot us some questions.
Yeah, shoot us some questions. And if your name is Rainer, then fuck you. Wait, there it is. Fuck you, Rainer. Fuck you. Okay. Sorry, I felt like it was important, don't you think? It was like, remember we made a list and we were like, okay, plug the website, plug the Instagram, Twitter also. Yeah, check us out on Twitter. But then also the end was fuck Rainer.
Yeah.
Right?
I almost forgot that clutch. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely have to
For sure.
say fuck Rainer. For sure, fuck Rainer.
Later.